Welcome back, everyone. I'm Abigail,
And I'm Grayson.
and today we'll be talking about the 1933 Kentucky Derby.
The 1933 Derby was held on Saturday, May 6th, and this was the 59th running.
The winner was Broker's Tip, second place was Head Play, and fourth place was Ladies' Man. We are not going in depth on the third place horse, Charlie O, because we cannot find any significant information out about him.
This race is known as the fighting finish because the jockeys started fighting each other on horseback once the horses got neck and neck.
Broker's Tip was called the winner, but Head Play's jockey did not believe this to be true, and the jockeys fought again after the race, causing them both to be suspended from racing for a month.
This Kentucky Derby was also the only race that Broker's Tip ever won.
So let's look into Broker's Tip's history, which we could not find much information on at all.
We do know that he was retired to stud in California, but did not really become recognizable until 1941 when his son, Market-Wise, received the 1943 American Co-Champion Older Male Horse Honors.
He was then donated to UC Davis in 1950 for veterinary instructional purposes.
He was euthanized at the age of 23 due to health problems, but his skeleton is preserved at the University of California.
When looking at Broker's Tip's pedigree, we can see Bonnie Scotland listed as a great-great-grandfather, who, if you remember from our video on the 1913 Kentucky Derby, was a British thoroughbred racehorse who was the leading sire in North America from 1880 to 1881. Bonnie Scotland sired Bramble, also seen in this pedigree, who sired Ben Brush, the winner of the 1896 Kentucky Derby, who is also seen in this pedigree.
Another famous horse in this pedigree is St. Simon, who we talked about in the 1923 Kentucky Derby video. He was a British racehorse who was the leading sire in Britain and Ireland from 1890 to 1896 and from 1900 to 1901, and his skeleton is in the British Museum of Natural History.
Moving on to some information about Head Play, who we know a lot more information about because he won a lot more races.
Very true. We know that he won the Hawthorne Juvenile Stakes in Illinois during his 2-year-old season, and in his 3-year-old season he won the Derby Trial Stakes at Churchill Downs and came second in the Kentucky Derby.
Additionally, after the fighting finish at the Kentucky Derby, Head Play went on to win the Preakness Stakes, beating Broker's Tip, who came in last.
Headplay was injured and couldn't compete for the rest of his 3- and 4-year-old seasons, but he came back in his 5-year season and won 4 stake races, beating the 1934 Kentucky Derby winner, Cavalcade, in the Suburban Handicap in Belmont Park, New York.
When examining Head Play's pedigree, we can see some similar names to Broker's Tip's pedigree, such as Emma C., Cinderella, and of course St. Simon. This means that the fighting finish between these two horses in the 1933 Kentucky Derby was actually a family feud.
A very distant family feud.
Yes, that's true.
We do see some inbreeding in the early years of this pedigree, with a horse named Spendthrift.
Spendthrift was an American racehorse with English parents. He raced at 2 years old with an undefeated season and was named the American Co-Champion 2-year-old colt of 1878.
He was then sold for $15,000 and ran his 3-year-old season, winning the 1879 Belmont Stakes and the Jersey Derby.
You know he won the Jersey Derby despite the fact that he got kicked at the beginning of the race? After this incredible season, he was sent to be trained in England, after which he retired as a 5-year-old with 16 starts, 9 wins, and 5 placings.
In 1884, he was sold from his retirement home to various stud farms throughout Kentucky. Some of his more famous descendants were Bankrupt, who had 86 wins out of 348 races, Hastings, who sired Man of War, Kingston, who won the most victories of any thoroughbred racehorse with 89 wins, and Lamplighter, who won multiple stake races and was a successful sire.
Spendthrift died at the age of 24 on October 21st, 1900, due to natural causes.
Now let's talk about the 4th place horse of the 1933 Kentucky Derby, Ladies' Man.
Ladies' Man was an American thoroughbred who is best known for being the runner-up to Head Play in the 1933 Preakness Stakes.
In his 2-year-old season, he won the Arlington Futurity in Chicago, the Grand Union Hotel Stakes, the United States Hotel Stakes, and the Hopeful Stakes. Due to this, He was voted the 1932 United States champion 2-year-old colt.
In his 3-year-old season, his owner decided to leave him on rest until late spring, so his first race of the season was the Kentucky Derby, where he came in 4th, as we said before. Then he was entered in the Preakness Stakes, where, as stated earlier, he came in 2nd.
In 1934, Ladies Man won the Suburban Handicap at Belmont Park, the biggest win of his career. He continued to race until his 6th-year season when he was retired to stud at Almahurst Farm in Kentucky.
Looking at this pedigree, we see a large amount of inbreeding. Particularly, you can see St. Simon bred 3 times in the same generation, meaning that all of the top horses in the 1933 Kentucky Derby were distantly related through St. Simon's lineage.
That is so freaky. We can also see Polymilus and Sunridge inbred across 2 generations. We did not find any information on Sunridge, but quite a bit on Polymilus.
He was a British thoroughbred racehorse who was the leading sire of racehorses in Great Britain and Ireland for 5 years, and his most famous descendant is Secretariat, who won the 1973 Kentucky Derby, which we will discuss in a later video.
Now, it's time for a fun horse fact.
Amazing! What is our fun fact today?
Our fun fact for today is that horses entered in competitions all have the same birthday, January 1st.
That is true. This is for standardization purposes, so that it can be assured that all horses in a competition class are the same age. Of course, not every horse is born on January 1st.
Right, but because of this rule, most breeders breed their mares so that they foal in January. You don't want them to foal before January 1st, isn't that right?
Yes, that is correct. An example would be a horse born on December 31st, 2023, and it would automatically be listed as a 1-year-old on January 1st, 2024 in registration records, whereas a horse born on January 2nd, 2024 would not be listed as a 1-year-old until January 1st, 2025.
So even though the foal would be 1 day old, it would still be considered a 1-year-old by this standard. That is crazy.
Yes, but it helps control the age of competitors and keeps the age classes more accurate.
Cool.
This slide has all the sources we used for this video.
We hope to see you next time when we discuss the 1943 Kentucky Derby and its winners.
Thanks for watching!